This is Maximum Lawyer with your host, Tyson Mutrux.
Well, Thomas, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. So I'm going to start with your role that you had before starting your firm, okay? And so you were the Chief Deputy District Attorney, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fancy title. I was a prosecutor.
It does sound like a fancy title.
Chief is once you get the promotion. It's kind of like making partner here in Clark County, Nevada.
Gotcha.
You make chief after 5 years, you get a pay bump, and you get the title. But yeah, I was a prosecutor for about 7 years, county. Handling, think about Clark County that's different from a lot of prosecutorial agencies. Not that I worked for them, but I've heard is Clark County, you start out, I mean, they throw you right into felonies. You're doing trials right away, jury trials right away. Yeah. So handle a bunch of serious cases. Did it for about 7 years.
Yeah. How's that helped your practice as a criminal defense attorney?
Well, it's everything. I mean, the way I actually fell into solo practice is after COVID, they made us come back to the office. It was May 2021. That was the order. We're coming back to the office, and I started coming back to the office, and having not been in there for a while, I just wasn't feeling coming back into the office like a lot of people in America. Yeah. And so about 4 weeks in, I was handling this real serious case out here. About 5 bicyclists got killed by this DUI driver. And I was the lead DUI death prosecutor in Vegas for years. I handled all the big cases. And this one was a big one, and the police messed it up. They really messed it up. I'd never seen such a clear case of coerced consent. And everybody who looked at the case knew that. So motion to suppress comes, blood results are tossed. We're going to have trouble in this case. 5 people killed, 2 people hurt. And I got the case dealt. I got a good result out of the case. But the day of sentencing, it was June 3rd, 2021, I gave DA Steve Wolfson my notice 2 hours before sentencing. I said, I think I'm going to be out of here. And it wasn't just that, but I wasn't feeling coming back to the office. My son was 2 years old. Like a lot of attorneys, you're not getting time with the kids. And everybody says, you're going to regret not spending time with your kids.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, if I got one superpower in my life, it's like I can take advice from somebody, and if it rings true to me, I can change my entire perspective on life. Yeah. And so my uncle also passed away a few days before that, pulmonary embolism.
Oh my gosh.
It just came out of nowhere. So I got a phone call like he died. Everybody was surprised. So that kind of gave me the extra push. There was a lot of things.
Was that so? I was going to ask, was like there some moment that happened? Was like that the moment that pushed you, or was there? You said it was a lot of things, but like, do you think you would have done it if he hadn't passed?
Well, I had already talked to my direct supervisor that I was planning to leave the office.
All right, so you'd already kind of committed.
Well, just to him, it was informal. We were really good friends, but I just wanted to give him a heads up, and I was like, I'm going to try and make it to the end of the year. I had some cases I'd been handling for years. The families trusted me.
Where were we in the year at this point?
This is May.
May. Okay, yeah, so you were going to put another 7 months in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd been ruminating on this for months and months and months. I tried everything: meditating, taking a walk outside. The walks in nature.
Yeah, walks are nice. But
workout. Breathing exercises. What's that? The Iceman, where he does that Wim Hof method. I was doing that every night. I was trying everything to change my state because I'm like, is it the job or is it something else? Yeah. And it's not the job because, I never thought I was going to be a career prosecutor, but I really liked what I did. And come to find out, I'm like, I think I need to make a change. And so I told him the end of the year. He said, well, let me know. He's got my back no matter what. So I said, I'll try to make it to the end of the summer. That's what I thought. He goes on vacation. I get the call that my uncle dies. And I said, why am I waiting to the end of the summer?
Was it like life too short?
That's right. Tomorrow's not promised. I look younger than I am. I'm about 45.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, if I'm going to make a change, I'm going to do this. And I always had the inkling of like doing private practice.
How long ago was this? 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2021. So we're about a little over 3 years in now.
Yeah. And so how long were you there?
7.
And then what'd you do before that?
I had my own practice for a second. Yeah. I went to law school late.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out the math.
Yeah, I was a non-traditional student for sure. I got barred in 2012.
Okay.
So I've been practicing for about 12 years.
So how long were you? So that's 7. So you've been doing that's what, a couple years then, I guess you were?
A couple years before that. Yeah. I moved out to Vegas. I worked for a guy, a solo practitioner. Oh, man, I couldn't stand it. He was doing construction defect, and he was like that typical Big Law partner that you hear. I guess he worked at Big Law for a little while. I mean, would just go off on me for no reason.
I've never understood those types.
Yeah,
I don't get it. It's like I want to kick your ass. It's like you're not going to talk to me that way. Like that, it's crazy to me.
Well, you got to have a little bit of like give people grace. It's kind of like parents that are beating their kids. Their parents beat them. Yeah. Right? So he probably got that treatment, and he's probably not as bad as he was treated.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm a little too old. And that's a problem with getting into law too old sometimes is you're just not going to take anything like that kind of treatment. And so I could still take some treatment at that time. I was still in my early 30s. At this point in my life, I mean, if somebody talked to me that way, I'd be out real quick. So I wouldn't last at a firm at this point. But yeah, so he died. My uncle died. I was like, I'm going to give my notice right away. I gave my notice, and I remember I gave the DA. The ADA was sitting right there. I was their lead DUI death prosecutor. Everybody thought I was going to make a career of it. And Wolfson asked me, DA Wolfson, he goes, well, if you could leave whenever you wanted, when would it be? And I said, right after this guy gets sentenced and adjudicated today, I'd walk out. The ADA almost spit his coffee out. He goes, today? I said, well, he asked me a question. I mean, let me go home and think about it. I did another 30 days, tightened up my caseload, made it good for the next guy to transition.
I think that's the responsible thing to do. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is. And, I always say that I am conscientious to a fault, to my own detriment.
Sure.
But I did it, and I left, and I really didn't know what I was going to do after that.
You didn't have any plans to go start your own firm, nothing like that?
I said I had saved up some money, lived below your means. I was going to take a year off. My son was 2. I was like, I'm going to take a year off, see what happens. And I'll tell you what, back to the question you asked, which is, how did it help me?
Yeah.
My cell phone just rings a month later, my personal cell, and it's a potential client.
Okay.
Right? They've been referred by somebody. They heard I wasn't at the DA's office anymore. So I take the case, and I'm like, well, I better get my LLC up right away if this might happen once in a while.
Sure.
Right? I get the LLC up. Within a couple weeks, I get another referral to my personal cell. I don't have a business line.
Do you know where they're coming from at this point?
I don't.
Do you know where they ever came from?
No, I would ask, and they just said, hey, he's a lawyer friend of mine, or my son has a friend that clerks for a judge, and they recommended you. And that was the thing about being a prosecutor. I was in the courthouse in the trenches so much that people got to know me. Yeah. I made friends. I had this community. It was automatic networking just by being in court every day. And so once I left the office, a lot of people knew, and I guess people were just referring business. Well, anyways, this guy calls me, and he says he had this case, is a felony case. Is referred by a defense attorney in the area. He knew I was out on my own, right? And he gets a lot of business. He's nearing retirement. And he said, oh, yeah, this guy referred me. So very, very warm lead, right? I mean, this is like an automatic close. Right. But I have no office. I have no website. I do have my LLC and my bank account at this point. I don't have payment processing.
Do you have a trust account up yet?
I had that all up.
Okay, got it.
I had the bank account. I had my LLC, and that was it. I didn't even have credit card processing, right?
Wow.
So the guys are like, our friend is in jail right now. This is how criminal defense is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can we meet you? Where am I going to meet him at?
I
don't have an office.
I'll meet you at the jail.
No, I said, well, what part of town are you in? Vegas is kind of big. They said, well, we're in Henderson. I said, okay, well, my office is kind of downtown. Why don't I just come to you? Right?
Nice, well played.
So come to them, meet them in a Starbucks. But I had been in the newspaper many, many, many times and on the news because of the cases I prosecuted.
So you were recognizable at that point?
Well, I got there, and they just Googled me, and news articles are showing up. They go, oh, he's legit. We're in a Starbucks. And they go, well, how much is the fee? And I go, well, I charge $20,000.
So for this market, was that high, low, right in line? Did you even know?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just know that I had been paying attention over the years to every defense attorney I came across.
Yeah.
I talked to them a lot. So their prices are all over the place.
All over the place,
you know? But again, I'm also trying to just take time off. And I'm not trying to do work for cheap.
So you're quoting a number that you're like, I'll be happy if they pay it, and if not, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
If they pay it, cool. If not, fine. It was a real serious case too, by the way. Like, I knew how serious it was.
Yep.
And they go, okay. They were like, I was like, it's $20,000. If you can pay it up front, I give a 10% discount. I still do that to this day. It's $18,000. Otherwise, I need half down or whatever. They're like, no, we can pay it up front. And they were like, do you take cash?
Yes, I do.
And I said, yeah, I didn't have credit card. I didn't have credit card processing. And literally, they go, wait right here. I'm in a Starbucks. They go out into the parking lot. They come back in. They hand me 18 grand.
Could you stop smiling after that?
Well, no. At first, I'm like in Starbucks. Like,
yes, what
am I doing?
Yes.
They're like, do you want to count it? I said, I'll just trust you on it. I'll count it like when I get in the car. But that's kind of like the genesis of it. And then 2 days later, another referral came to me, and he wanted to pay. And I quoted him like $7 grand, and he's like, okay, I can pay right now by credit card. And I said, well, I still don't have my credit card processing. So I'm calling LawPay and these
trying to get all like,
and they're like, it's going to take 2 or 3 days.
Right.
I was like, I need it done in like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And the guy pushed it through. He got it done for me. And,
fantastic.
Yeah. And I got that case. And I said, man, maybe there's something to it. I'm still trying to take time off, but if these kind of come around, and they just kept coming. I mean, that long story short, they just kept coming. And so going back to your original question, yeah, the prior experience had everything to do with it. If I just hung my shingle coming out of law school, none of that's happening. Yeah,
it is interesting. And as a district attorney, so I'm just going to call you a prosecutor out here. So because we just called them prosecutors in Missouri.
Yeah.
So as a prosecutor, I mean, I'm sure you saw the solos that would come right out of law school, right? Like you'd see them come and take a criminal case. I guess what was your perception of those types of people that just hang out the shingle right out of law school? Like, did you have any perception of those attorneys that would do that?
Well, I know this. When I interviewed at the prosecutor's office, they asked me why I never did any criminal defense work prior to that. And I said,
oh, that's an interesting thing.
I said, I don't mind taking a case that I don't know how to do, being a young attorney, but criminal defense, I mean, with somebody's liberty at stake, I would have an issue with that. And they kind of laughed. And as I was a prosecutor, I saw that the quality of lawyering in the criminal defense bar is pretty bad.
So you've been able to leverage your experience against that, I guess, in this market.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
is there a big fish here in this so like in St. Louis, like, and in Missouri, like the big DWI lawyer is Travis Noble. He's well known in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I know he speaks all over the country. Scott Rosenblum's the big guy in St. Louis.
Okay.
Like, is there like a big fish here in Vegas?
There's some very well-known attorneys. I think the guy who was considered like the guy, he passed away a couple years ago. He had multiple heart surgeries. Bill Terry was his name. Yeah. Great guy, very respected. I had run-ins with him, but he'd been around since, the mob days in Vegas. He'd been around for a long time. The mayor, Oscar Goodman, was a big hitter before he became mayor. He represented like, the mob never existed according to him, but he represented these guys and he was good at what he did. He won some wiretap cases. Next thing you know, he's getting everything and he ascended to mayor. But it's kind of like a transition period. So there's some guys that are in town, but I don't think there's one person who's considered like, oh, he's the guy. It's pretty much word of mouth where if somebody's been around for a while, they're getting referrals because they've been around for a while and the attorneys know who they are and their former clients know who they are. But it's kind of a vacuum right now.
I was going to say, do you have that? I was kind of thinking of it as a vacuum too. Like, do you have any ambition to fill that void?
Well, I think look, I was a lead DUI death prosecutor, prosecuted thousands of DUIs. Yeah. Every lawyer wants to take a DUI case, man.
Yeah.
They do. Even if they don't practice criminal defense, they think it's easy money, right?
And I do injury now. I did criminal defense back in the day, did DWIs, and what really pissed me off about those, because in Missouri we call them DWIs, what always made me mad is that to do them effectively, you do need to charge a pretty steep fee to do, because we can do depots during the administrative hearing and all that in Missouri. So, but there's some things you could do that are really effective to help preserve this person's license, but also to maybe get them off, because of all the criminal cases, that might be the easiest to get someone off because of all the technical issues there are with DWIs. But you have someone that take them for $300, $400, $500. It's like, it's crazy to me. And so I'm assuming you probably fight that out here a little bit too, where people just charging nothing for these DWIs whenever, and there's no way they can effectively do them out here for that amount.
Well, the truth is, like I said, I prosecuted, and I'm actually the city prosecutor for Boulder City still.
Oh, now. So you can do. We have that out in St. Louis too, where people are municipal prosecutors.
Yeah, so it's a contract thing. They don't have much crime down there. So I'm still on the other side of these guys, and I'm going to tell you, nobody's doing anything on those cases.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, but you could, but no one does.
They don't even know how.
Yeah.
Look, that's the problem with going solo right out of law school. Okay, you go solo out of law school, or let's say solo before you even know really how to practice, and you're so busy getting business, getting clients, and then you never have time to actually learn how to execute if you need to, how to actually litigate.
Yep.
Right, and then you find like, hey, nobody's really litigating. All these cases are resolving. I can do this with a couple phone calls. I have friends, like they get a lot of clients and they say, hey, it's a phone call and 3 court appearances. That's what I'm charging for, right?
Yep.
And I go, man, if you really look at it that way, I feel bad for the clients in that regard. But a guy practices for 10 years doing it that way. He's been doing it that way so long, he actually thinks he knows what he's doing.
So it's funny you say that because I took a case that was in Boone County, Missouri, and I'd been practicing in St. Louis for a few years at this point, and like we were like, you know, like we had a whole process for how to handle DWI. And my first appearance in Boone County it was like a DWI docket, and I noticed all these attorneys playing out all their clients on the first appearance because they offer a special deal if you plead them out on the first appearance. I'm thinking like, what a disservice. This is such an injustice. You know what I mean? Like I could not believe what was happening because it was such a disservice to their clients, but it was such a benefit to the attorneys and the prosecutor's office.
And the judge.
Yes. So
everybody involved.
Except for the client.
It's the system. It's like that Dave Chappelle joke. Like you're sitting at a table and your attorney's supposed to be on your side, your agent, but they all work together all the time and they're telling you take this deal. But really they're doing what's best for them, not what's best for you. And no, I got a story for you. And I tell this to potential clients sometimes. There's a guy and he's actually a decent defense attorney. But even like I said, the bar is so low on what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
I'm outside. I'm training a prosecutor. I'm hanging outside the DWI courtroom, and it's a busy courtroom, right? One judge hears all the cases, and the DUI death cases are there. The injury cases are in there, but then also the misdemeanors, right? And there's hundreds of them.
And one judge does it all.
One judge here does it all, which is, I guess, is good to streamline it. But anyways, I'm outside the courtroom because sometimes I would hang out when I'm training a prosecutor. I would just hang out outside, see the defense attorneys, and all their clients are out there. It's like a herd of cattle. And the defense attorneys are all meeting with them, right? And this real pretty girl comes up to me. She goes, "Are you my attorney?" And I go, "No, you never met your attorney before?" And she goes, "I never met him." I was like, okay, what's his name? She says his name. I go, okay, if he shows up, I'll point him out to you. I was like, but what's your case on for today? She goes, trial.
No.
I said, oh, okay. I was like, so he shows up. I point her out. I was like, that's him. She goes up to him. He's like, give me a minute. He's got 5 other clients there that day, right? And he's talking them all into pleading, right? That's what they do.
Oh, my gosh.
Because, look, if you're getting paid a flat fee, your financial incentive is to get rid of close your case as fast as possible.
That's part of the problem, like charging not enough money. That's part of the problem. Yeah.
So I go in the courtroom, I talk to the prosecutor, I say, hey, do you have so-and-so's case on for trial? He goes, I do. All my witnesses here. I look back, the cop's there, the nurse, the chemist.
So
everybody's
it's
there.
not one of those things where it's going to get reset. It's going.
It's going.
Yeah.
And the defense attorneys are using that too. They left it on, had their client come, and it's witness poker. Are the witnesses here? Yes. Okay, if they're here, you're pleading guilty to DWI. If they're not here, you're going to get some kind of reduction.
That's disgusting.
And that's the extent to which they do it. But here's the thing. I talked to the prosecutor, said, I go, hey, did you ever talk to so-and-so about the case? He goes, he never called me back. So I assumed that it was just left on. I brought the witnesses in. I go, okay. Never had a phone call with them. This is one of the better defense attorneys in the area, mind you. Okay?
Wow.
Next thing I know, 10 minutes later, he walks in with her. They walk right up to the podium, never comes up to me. Never comes up to the prosecutor because there's standard deals in these cases that everybody knows.
Sure.
And he just goes, pleading no contest to DWI and doing the class and the fine and with the standard deal that gets offered in the county for those, which that was it.
Yeah.
But me and the prosecutor just looked at each other and went, dang. And so when I was about to go out on my own, or right when I did leave the DA's office, this really experienced defense attorney, and he's one of the few guys, like prosecutors will refer people to him, right? He doesn't even do that much either, but he'll file at least a motion if he thinks there's an issue, and he'll definitely call the prosecutor and try to wear the proprosecutor out on the phone. Yeah. That's more than most of them do. He'll actually call you and be like, come on, please.
Yes.
Why not?
Like try something.
Try. Just try. Right?
Yeah.
And he took me into his office, and he was a DA way back in the 80s for like 3 or 4 years. And he goes, He goes, man, he's like, I know what you're thinking. When I was here in the 80s, you're sitting there handling these calendars. All these attorneys are coming in. And you're going, man, I could do way better than them. And I laughed, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I know what you're thinking. And,
so he could read your mind.
Yeah.
Yes,
he's like, you're thinking the same thing I thought 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so I came out and I do charge a little bit more for my cases. But, when I'm fighting like these municipal prosecutors, they are very aggressive. Because they only handle misdemeanors. It's not like the county, right? Yep. They're concentrating on felony cases, and the misdemeanors are like, let's just try and get our convictions where we can. These aggressive municipal prosecutors, I'll paper them because look, they're used to everybody doing what I just told you,
and they're kind of bullies. Like it's like because I never thought about the way you just talked about how they're used to like just dealing with just these misdemeanors. Like this is like their job, like this
That's their murder case.
Whenever the actual prosecutors in the county are actually dealing with felonies, but then the misdemeanors is kind of almost like a hindrance.
It is.
Like, so I never thought about it from that angle. But it's like they try to bully people into these pleas. It drives me crazy.
And they know which ones they can. Because you're dealing with the same. Well, if you're dealing with somebody you've never seen before or barely shows up, it's like blood in the water.
Right. And
if you're dealing with somebody you deal with all the time, you know how they operate.
Sure.
Is this a person who's just going to walk their client in? You just tell him no a couple times. He might send you a long email with all the issues, quote unquote, and then he's going to plead his client.
Yeah.
Or is this a guy who's actually going to leave it on for trial and do the trial?
Yeah.
There's only a couple guys who would even do that. Or what I try to bring to the table, which is I'm not even going to let you get me into trial until you've already spent several nights and weekends responding to motions I've authored.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to use the oppositions that I authored for everybody, the stock oppositions, because I know what I did oppositions for. Everybody uses them. So I'm giving like more of a bespoke defense, but I'm putting more time into a case. But with that, it's like I carry a big stick, but I'm catching flies with honey.
Yeah.
Because I was the prosecutor. I know how to talk to a prosecutor. I know what their concerns, but I know the ones who are going to be super aggressive but don't like to work.
Right.
Yeah, they want their weekend off. And I'll tell you, when you file 10 motions on somebody and they go, does anybody have an opposition for this? And nobody does because they've never seen it. And then they start doing the research. I'll tell you, about a week before their oppositions are due, you get that email with an offer.
It is interesting, like the prosecutors, they have like that big bark. They have a big bark. And so like they give you that pushback, but then you're right, they don't want to try the case. They don't want to do that work.
That's right.
So, but the bark works with most attorneys.
You need both. A prosecutor's office needs both. You need the ones who just like, they don't know how to litigate, but they'll go in and just brawl.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you need some that were kind of like me at the prosecutor's office, which is, I want the defense to file some motions because I want you to be effective because I got to defend your defense. If we go to trial and your guy loses, which he is, 2 years later, ineffective assistance thing, I'm defending you.
That's
so
right.
please file some motions. I don't care. But trust me when I tell you, and that guy, Bill Terry, who was like the big shark out here, the big guy, he knew when he got on a case with me, he's going to have to do work because as a prosecutor, I actually filed motions, which nobody was doing.
That's kind of rare. Yeah.
Yeah, I would do it. And because I want to put the defense attorneys to work because I saw also like, and I know that now that I'm defense counsel, like last thing I want to see is five motions come in on a misdemeanor DUI from some prosecutor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, you don't want to have to do that additional work for no extra money.
Exactly.
And are you flat fee only, or do you do hourly?
I do flat fee.
Yeah.
You know, that's how just criminal defense is. I prefer it that way.
It's an easier sell to the client.
It is because it's mitigating their risk, right? As
Yeah.
far as the hourly rate goes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, look, regardless, I'm going to do your case for this. And I actually love that there's guys out here that are doing the case for practically nothing. I love it. You know?
Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. You're looking for a criminal defense attorney. You call 5 guys. They're like, I'll do it for $1,500. I'll do it for $2,000. I'll do it for whatever. And then I come in and I go, yeah, I was like, I'll do it for $10,000. I need $7,500 up front.
And here's why. Do you explain why, or do you?
Well, I see. Another thing is these guys will spit the price out right when they get somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, number one, they're doing that because they're so busy.
Yep.
They're taking so many clients. They're running a high volume practice, or they're trying to screen right away, which for me is, I'm just going to give somebody value up front. You're calling me. You're in an emergency. I really know what I'm talking about here. I'll spend a half hour with you on the phone, even if I think you're not going to be able to afford my services, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll quote the price. And if they don't hire me and they don't have the funds to hire me, that's fine. And I'll even try to direct them to somebody who I think is semi-competent and will do it for less. I'll direct you that way. But I'm okay with them walking away. The thing is this. If you're calling around and you really have a dire situation, do you want the $5,000 guy or the $10,000 guy?
Yeah, you want the $10,000. That's what you want.
Yeah. You want the $10,000 guy or the $20,000 guy?
$20,000.
You want the
right.
$100,000 guy?
It's interesting, the mindset part of that, right? Where because and I don't think that I always call them the $500 attorney. Like they don't realize that, like how much of a disadvantage they're giving themselves by charging so little. They look like the discount attorney.
Well, here's what it comes down to. They're
Money.
starving.
Yeah, starving. Yeah.
Okay. They're trying to get some money. They're trying to keep the lights on. I get it.
Yeah, but what they don't realize is that they're creating this gridlock with their docket that they're having to spend so much more time
They
to get
know
less
they
money.
don't have the value to offer.
Yeah.
That's why they can't quote that price.
That's a good point. Like understanding your value is a massive part.
Yeah.
Which is, and I want to get to like the low.
Well, I'd even say this before you get to that.
Yeah.
I think they do understand their value. That's why they're quoting such a low price.
That's a fair point.
And and the consumer picks up on that.
Yeah.
Right? So I tell people, I go, look, I know sometimes I'll even say most people can't afford me.
So,
okay?
Yeah, because that is really, I think that is it's a brilliant point, because like something that I talk about is that like part of running the business is also like making sure that you're good at your craft. You have to be good at your craft. That's a part of running the business, right? They're not two separate things. They're the same thing. Because if you are not good, you're not going to be confident in your abilities, and you're going to be charging dirt, and you're not going to be making any money.
Right.
So, which why I wanted to get to, like, you focus on like high profitability, low overhead.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
So what are some keys to that?
What keys?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, low overhead. I don't have a physical office.
Yep.
Okay, I run a virtual office.
Does that ever affect trying to get clients? No.
No, I mean, look, I have a virtual office. I can get a conference room.
Okay.
I pay $60 an hour, $80 an hour. They're always like, "Do you want the $40 an hour conference room?" I'm like, "No, give me the huge one. It's like this boardroom. The table is like 30 feet long with a bunch of chairs, and it's just me and a client."
Yeah.
I was like, "Give me that one for $80, an extra $20 an hour." I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
what's the reason why you do that?
Why I do that?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to make an impression on a client. I don't keep an office.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we need to meet, let's meet somewhere. Man, this place, it's nice.
So what do you think it is? Something I always notice is like who you hired as your attorney was like an ego thing for the client. And so I think you're 100% dead on. I think that's the brilliant move.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do you think that is though? Because it's almost like a badge of honor to know that like they have hired the good attorney. You know what I mean? So why do you think that is?
Well, if I'm going to try and understand your question, they want to know there's a good attorney because of the office they're going into?
It's almost like they're showing off their attorney, right? Like, because I've seen it, like, that's my attorney. Like, they're like showing off to other people almost. Like, that's their guy. So, like, you're conveying that to those clients, which I think is brilliant. Like, you're the guy, you got the big conference room and everything. But I do wonder, like, what it is about that clientele that they need that guy that is or the attorney. I wouldn't say guy, but the attorney that is like the good attorney.
Well, I don't think the conference room has anything to do with it. I was just bringing that up as, look, I keep my overhead low. I don't keep a physical office.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, $1,300, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 a month, I don't spend it.
Yep.
Okay? COVID changed everything. Most clients hire me without ever meeting me. I dispose of cases without people ever meeting me in person. I do it all the time.
Dismissal, is that what you mean?
Or enter a plea, written entry of plea.
Okay.
They're out, even if they're in state, I almost never meet them. And so the conference room is some people want to meet, and it changed. A lot of the attorneys they're like, they have those offices, and they go, yeah, after COVID, everything did change. Yeah. And then you could just Zoom. Clients like that too. They don't have to leave their house.
So it's interesting for us because I saw the shift right around like 2014, 2015, because 2010 I graduated law schools, and that was when we were meeting everyone in person, everybody.
Yeah.
And then right around 14 or 15 is when it really shifted. And then we started getting to the point where like we weren't meeting. We would sign up the client over the phone, or they would do electronically, and then we'd send them a check. Mm-hmm. We would never meet that person, and I always found that wild. Like, it's just such a bizarre thing to me. Like, I would at least want to meet my attorney. It's a different world than what it used to be.
I would probably want to meet my attorney after the case is going. Yeah, maybe before. But here's the thing: look, I paid most people would go, hey, your website, you paid that much for the design of it. You paid that much.
It's really important. Website's important.
I go, yeah. I mean, this is what actually gives you legitimacy. Somebody looks you up. That's why I'm happy that at the prosecutor's office I was in the paper a lot. So if somebody looks me up, they don't think like, am I sending money to a Nigerian?
That was such a gift to you. You know what I mean? Like
it was.
That was such a gift. Yeah,
but
right.
I went to the DUI unit for a reason. They're high profile cases.
Mm-hmm.
The news loves a DUI death case. They follow them. They track them.
Do you have a lot of those out here?
Yeah.
Is it because of the casinos?
Yeah. It's just drinking and driving. I don't know if there's more here than anywhere else, but we get a lot of them.
Because it's one of those things where like I wouldn't necessarily consider like out in Missouri any of the counties really any of the DUI units as like high profile. Because like I wouldn't say we do see death cases from, but not nearly.
You probably heard about the Las Vegas Raider, Henry Ruggs.
Yeah.
Remember he killed somebody 156 miles an hour? That would have been my case if I was at the office.
Yeah.
Right? That was a huge one. The one I did with the cyclist, that was a huge one. There's a case, I'm defending cases now that are DUI death cases. And the media's all over them.
When you wanted to go to that unit, was it because you wanted to be a high profile prosecutor or that eventually you thought, I might go out on my own?
Well, yeah, I always had the inkling that I might go out on my own. But the way you start at the prosecutor's office, you do general litigation. Those are the garbage cases.
Yeah.
So if a murder makes it to general litigation, like this is what we call a track murder, like homeless on homeless, probably barely provable, right? Or else the homicide team's keeping it, right?
Yeah.
And then they have a sex team, and they have a domestic violence team, and they got the DUI team, and they have the guns team, they got the gang unit, right? And you're trying to ascend to those positions to get more serious cases.
Sure.
And so when I was about 2 years in, there's an opening for domestic violence, and there's an opening for the DUI team. And I put in for domestic violence, of course, because the DUI team at that point was considered you're a pariah. They sent the trouble, like these guys, same guys had been on that unit for a long time. Nobody wanted to go there. And the domestic violence thing wasn't going to happen for me. The ADA told me, he goes, what do you think about the DUI team? And I said, no, I'd go do it. And I got over there. And so it wasn't, I wish I could say I had it all planned out.
Sure.
But I didn't. I fell into it. I was over there. I go, next thing I know, like every sentencing I go into, the cameras are there, right? Every case I'm on, the cameras are there at arraignment. And then, I stopped watching the news because the DUI death makes the news. I'm like, I know when I go into work the next morning, I'd rather not know.
Yeah.
I'd rather the case just hit my desk when it hits my desk.
Yeah, it was ruining the surprise. It's like knowing what you're going to get before Christmas morning. So
but when I got there, the guys were like, if you're ever thinking about going into private practice, this is the place to be. DUI misdemeanors, all you do is accident reconstructionist and car accidents. So if you want to go do plaintiff side stuff.
Wow.
And I've done plaintiffs. I came out, these plaintiffs firms always need trial attorneys, right?
Yeah. That's right.
And so, I go to trial. I do trials for them sometimes. And so, those guys were kind of right. They were like, you kind of pick up those skills along the way.
Something that we've noticed is like, of all the practice areas, criminal defense is one of the hardest to scale. It's really hard to grow a big firm because you'll see like injury firms. There's all over the country. They're scaling. You even see with family law attorneys, estate planning attorneys. Like they can scale, but there's something about criminal defense that's really hard to scale. I've seen it done before, but it's rare. So I was going to ask you what you thought it is.
I'm pretty new to the game.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm 3 years in, but I'll tell you, I got my mind working on it. I have friends that run huge PI firms, and the thing with that is when you get a PI case, it's not like, I got to go down to the jail and visit somebody right now.
No.
There's a hearing tomorrow. He's got a probation revocation hearing next week I got to prepare for. It's like, get the medical records, get them treated. Case manager, do everything on it.
Yeah.
Until we file. And then you can have like some attorney that probably doesn't know what he's doing, like do the filings and just go take some depots. I mean, that's the kind of the way they run it. So maybe there's something to it with that. With the family law firms, I don't know how they're doing it, how they scale it. I just know there's so much work in family law and not enough attorneys want to do it.
Well, yeah, is the way the one of the keys is like they have evergreen retainers where like so it's not like criminal defense where it's like a flat fee, but if they have an evergreen retainer, it keeps replenishing. They're never in the negative. So if the client stops paying, it dips below whatever the limit is on their evergreen retainer. They just stop working on the case. So they're never out money. But as long as they have a steady supply of clients and they can get the attorneys, they can hire enough attorneys, they're just printing cash, and that's how they're able to do it. But I mean, the hard part of that is like hiring the right attorneys. They're gonna want to stick around. It's hard finding family law attorneys. But I'm oversimplifying it, but it's easier than you might think. But with criminal defense, the big part of it is that, and family law has this problem too, because they're always in court, but they're billing every single hour for it. Criminal defense, you're taking a flat fee. You're in court all the time. It's really, really hard to do other stuff other than being in court all the freaking time, because you have the morning docket, the afternoon docket, sometimes the night, depending on where you are, like a night docket, which can be really tough.
Yeah. I got a lot of guys I know, they run around with like chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah.
I look at their calendar. I go, how many appearances did you have?
Because they're not charging enough. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of the problem. But I know that's not the way I operate. That's just not the way I operate. And I'm fortunate enough that, look, I saved up enough money before I left, and then I just started making money. And then I started getting my, ducks in a row as far as having the website down. But yeah, I don't have an assistant. I keep my overhead low. I do my own court filings. With Zoom now, I mean, your court appearances, you can Zoom in for your court appearances.
That's a really good point. That's something where I had not thought about that for criminal defense. If you can do Zoom, that's a gift.
Because most criminal defense appearances are, you wait around for an hour for your case to get called, and it's 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what they have done, and I've noticed in a lot of counties in Missouri, back in person for criminal. Like a lot of our injury stuff is it's Zoom. We use WebEx, but Illinois, a lot of we do use Zoom over in Illinois,
right?
Because in St. Louis, you practice on both sides of the river for the most part. But like with criminal defense, I've heard it's mostly like in person.
I still show up in person though.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, if you batch your docket, you can put everything on one day if as long as they're all in the same county.
The key, look, these guys, when I went into private, they all go, there's 2 ways you do it. All right, you either take a lot of cases and don't charge a lot, or you take a few cases and charge a lot. Yeah. And I go, why would you ever do the former?
Yeah.
And they go,
I'm with you.
Well, and I go, unless you can't do the latter.
I think it's an ego thing. Like, oh, another case. I get another case. It's like almost like a dopamine hit.
Well, it's like Rick Ross said. He's like, we don't leave no money on the table, man.
Right, yeah.
If they can only pay $1,500, get that $1,500. And it's like, I get that. I get that. But there's a couple guys out here in Vegas who have scaled, and they have a bunch of attorneys working for them. And I'll tell you, here's the big problem. Somebody comes to hire me for criminal defense. They're like, former chief deputy district attorney. This guy's the man, right? He's got deep connections.
Salary's got to be
all
there.
over the news. Everything's there.
Yep.
Well, when he comes to hire me, he wants to hire me. He doesn't want my associate showing up.
It's a really good
negotiating the case,
Yep.
being in court. And these guys who have scaled always have their newer attorneys showing up to court on the cases. And fine, that's the way to run your business. But at the same time, like, it's a disservice to the client, and they're getting so many cases again. Are they giving the best? I'm trying to get favorable outcomes for my client. Yep. I'm not trying to process cases through, but that goes back to a point that you said earlier. Like, it's hard to scale because of whatever. But at the same time, like, you said you need to know how to practice to run a good business. I disagree with that.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
Look, I was on the other side for a long time, looking around knowing I could do better than these guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are there. It's just like PI. Just get the cases. Just sign the cases. Just sign the cases. Because finding a good attorney is like finding a good mechanic. It's like finding a good doctor.
Yeah.
You're an attorney. I'm an attorney. I try to find a good doctor. I have no idea if my doctor is good or not. And then he fixes me, and I go, at least when I leave there, I go, I still have that cyst under my eyelid or something.
Yeah.
He didn't fix it. But with criminal law or law in general, you don't know. The case is over, and it's like, did the case go the way it should have gone? Could somebody have done better? They don't know.
I think there's enough information out there with injury specifically, because there are. If I didn't know specifically like how injury cases work, because the whole game for us is bad faith. We want to pin the insurance company in a corner with bad faith.
Policy.
And pop the policy, right?
Yeah.
But I would say over half of injury attorneys don't even understand that.
They don't even know how to pop a policy.
And so
that's right. You're right.
So their business is hurting because we pop the policy so many times where it's so much more money for the firm.
But how does the consumer know that?
Well, I'm not even saying the consumer may not know it.
But that's how you're getting your cases. That's what you're saying. You're saying you got to know how to practice so consumers understand you know how to practice
I'm
for
really
business.
more talking about the health of the business because my profits are way higher than the guys that don't know what they're doing when it comes to bad faith. So they're skimming by.
But if you're popping policies, you're actually litigating.
Well,
and some of the most
not always in Missouri. Our bad faith statute's so favorable.
Oh, you can pop a policy
we can
pre-lit?
pop without pre-lit. And
okay.
So now there's one insurance company, it's American Family, sometimes I'll say it too, where they'll make you pop a policy at verdict, but otherwise, a lot of the other ones will not make you. We had 4 last year. We didn't even file suit on them. So you don't need on several of them. The statute's so favorable. When you have them in a corner, you got them in a corner and they pay it.
So you're making more per case because you're able to get higher value out of these cases. But I'll tell you, the business I see is pre-lit personal injury firms out here. Sign as many cases as you can. Sign them. We're settling. And they're not getting as much as some of the better firms out here. But the consumers, I'll tell you, my stepmother, right? She's she's Filipino, right? And she's not the most educated person.
Are you tired of the marketing guessing game? Does your website feel more like a digital billboard than a client magnet? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. And it's time to stop the uncertainty and start getting real results. Let's talk about your marketing spend. Are you just shelling out money every month and crossing your fingers? Do you ever wonder what impact your marketing is really having on your revenue? Well, it's time to take the guesswork out of the equation with Rise Up Media. We've been working with them for over a year, and the feedback from our fellow members has been fantastic. Rise Up Media is here to take your marketing to the next level. They'll even perform a full audit of your online presence, giving you the good, the bad, and even let you in on what your competition is up to that you're missing out on. And the best part, there's no obligation, no catch, no pressure. If you decide to work with them, their contracts are month to month. That's right. No long-term commitments tying you down. So what are you waiting for? To learn more about how Rise Up Media can transform your firms, visit riseupmedia.com/MaxLaw, and Rise is spelled with a Z. riseupmedia.com/MaxLaw.
Her daughter's an attorney. I'm an attorney. My son's godmother is a district court criminal judge. I mean, attorneys everywhere. We throw a birthday party, attorneys all over the place. Her niece gets in a car accident. She tells me about it in the afternoon. We're sitting there at dinner. She goes, I already called Paul Powell. And he's one of these business billboard lawyers who has commercials going, more lawyer, less fee, more lawyer, less fee. She already called him. They already signed with him. Didn't even –
What?
Family full of attorneys, right? And I go, this is eye-opening because that's what consumers are kind of going for. And so they don't know who's actually doing a better job. They don't
I don't disagree with that at all. I really don't.
And once they get signed, then they start doing their research. Now there's a lien on the case.
Yep.
The other attorney wants their cut, acting like they did all this work.
I do think, at least with injury, the clients are becoming more informed because we have done a better job as a bar generally as like educating clients as compared to like criminal defense attorneys, because we do a lot more marketing. It's just a different market. But overall, I would still say generally they don't know the difference. For like they're more educated than what they used to be, but they really don't. I mean, I used this example I think yesterday talking to somebody where I handled early on in my career. I handled a family law case for a buddy, and I probably got mopped. Like they probably mopped the floor with me.
Yeah.
They probably did. I don't know. I'm not a family law attorney, but here's what I do remember: when I left, my client was like high-fiving me and like happy.
You fought for them.
And their client, who was like an experienced family law attorney, was like yelling at them in the court outside the courtroom. So like my client, like it was like how you make the client feel is really what it comes down to, and. Neither one of them probably have any idea who got a better deal than the other one. Like they really don't know, and I don't even know. And I was on the case, so like it really does come down to like how you make them feel.
But that kind of goes to my point of it's not how good of an attorney you are that dictates the business. But I get your point. You're saying, well, no, you can increase your profits by being a better attorney, especially if you're in a contingency fee based thing. But I would also say this: you got to sign the big money cases.
Yeah.
So if you got a guy out here who's like just yapping cases, I mean, Vegas is crazy because all the California attorneys came in. Now Morgan & Morgan's advertising here.
Yeah, they just came in St. Louis
Sweet
too.
James is out here, right? And so this has been a big influx the past few years, but everybody's been making their business just signing cases. And then, if you get a big one, well, then you go over and get Brian Panish. You get Panish A. Boyle, like, hey, we'll sign you in. He litigates it.
That's right.
You get a big thing. He splits it with half on you. You didn't do anything. So the whole business is get the cases. And the criminal defense thing is the same way. Get the cases. So I think you could scale it, is my point.
Well, how have you kept off that how have you fought off that temptation to just sign more cases?
I just take what comes to me. So I did Google ads for like 1 month.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
It's effective.
If you're the first one they call, because I go, did you even go to my site? Do you even know who I am?
Nope.
Nope. They're ready to pay over the phone because I'm good on the phone.
You ever tried LSAs?
What is that?
Which are similar. It's their local search ads. You should try that too, because you only get charged for the actual phone call, not for the click.
Yeah, I hate it though.
Really?
Because first of all, instead of me getting the warm lead, which means they kind of already did their research and know who I am, or they got a referral.
Right.
Now it's a cold lead, and now I feel like I paid for it. So now I feel like I want to close it no matter what. Right. Not to say I'm against it. It works.
Yeah.
But I saw like how quickly volume can escalate for me, and I'm doing it all on my own. I need such a small sliver of the market, like such a small sliver that I'm at this point in the year where if I don't take another case for the rest of the year, I'm fine.
You're good. Yeah.
If the phone doesn't ring, I'm happy actually, because I don't have the intake to be able to field a bunch of calls, to start doing a bunch of client consults, to do all that. And if I did, I'd make a killing. I'd be in the seven figures easily.
How do you prevent? Like, I'm taking it that your marketing is fairly limited and that you're focusing on referrals, right?
Yeah, ground and pound, man.
So how do you prevent from being that 55-year-old attorney that they're sort of on the back end, they're starting to see a decline in their leads? Because that's where I start to see it. That works. Your approach works for a while, and then eventually it stops working. Like you're now the old attorney. And,
I don't think so, man, because like I said, like the living legend who no longer with us, Bill Terry.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of his career, he's in his 70s. Everybody wants him. Why? Because he's known. And so if you've been doing it for 20 years, like when I'm 65, I will have handled so many cases. My former clients are referring clients to me.
Did he do much marketing at all?
Well, it was a different era, right? So, I mean, the guys who were killing it back in like the 90s were the first guys who like got on the internet. And everyone was like, no, I'm Yellow Pages, right? Like, oh, they finally got on the internet. And so everybody's kind of catching up with that now. But it's still the same thing of if you're a known attorney, I'll tell you, there's a couple guys in town. They represented Henry Ruggs. They represented Paris Hilton. They represented Bruno Mars on the cocaine charge, right? Celebrities call them. Yeah. And these guys, you can't even find, they don't even have a website, right? Because they're getting clients and they're getting high paying clients and they're already getting referrals. They're the guys to get. They're nothing special. Yeah. They do some work on the case, but that's how you want to gear yourself. You want to brand yourself that way. In this day and age, I'll tell you this, I did a little social media on my own when I first went out. I started doing, YouTube, TikTok, IG. I actually just signed a client from 2 days ago. I followed you on Twitter. You haven't tweeted in 2 years. My friend just got a DUI.
Funny. That's
boom,
so
boom,
funny.
boom.
Yeah.
Right? And I go, it's on my to-do list to get back into it, but I understand why attorneys don't do it because I'm in that same boat. You start getting too busy and it's a lot of work. And you got companies calling you saying, well, we'll do the content for you, but you still got to make the content.
No, the content is if it's by some company, it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be you.
You got to put the time in.
Yeah.
I taught myself how to do Adobe, like editing.
Yeah.
Took a videography course. I got it set up. Everything's set up. Just got to put the time in. But that's really the next level. And none of these attorneys are doing it right because, like I said, they don't have the knowledge or they're just too busy.
Yeah.
Because they're taking too many cases, like we said.
Yeah, so I think, though, you could do both. You could still do the marketing and then take the case that you want to take and not take the others. And even
with the paid marketing?
Yeah, with the paid marketing. And with the way you're doing it, I'm not even saying you spend a bunch of money. I would just say at least do a little bit. That way your name's still out there. Because I've seen it a lot where, I've talked to thousands of attorneys at this point where they kind of get on that back end and they almost, unless you are you fill that void. You became that guy that's like, he's trying the cases all the time. He's in the news all the time. That's a little different. If you become that, I'll agree with you 100%. but you got to fill that void. That means you got to be trying those big cases. You got to keep getting those big cases. You'll keep getting the referrals. But even the top guy out, Scott Rosenblum in St. Louis, he's like the top guy. He still puts on a Christmas party every year for all of his clients. He still does the marketing out there because it is highly competitive. It's probably I don't know if it's as highly competitive out here, but it's extremely competitive out there with the criminal defense.
You got to market.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm not against paid. I'm not against. Like I said, I did it for a month at work, but I got inundated. Right. And I got inundated because I needed to have business processes set up more. And so I focused more on that. And then during the time, it's like, well, things are still just coming my way.
Right.
How are they coming to me? I guess I'm just fortunate. Is it going to last like that forever? I don't want to be the guy who's like, business was great and now my phone's not ringing. I don't want to be that
There's
guy.
this trend that's kind of where people are, they're following like lawyers on TikTok and Instagram. They're kind of goofy. And you see some of them are like, I know you're not a good lawyer. Like, it's just, you're not. And because you know them, and they're starting to get those leads. And I wonder what you think about that. Because I do think we're going to start to see more of those lawyers getting those leads as opposed to us, And so we got to find a way to kind of combat that a little bit. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Well, no, I think TikTok, I think Instagram and TikTok and Facebook ads, I think they're great.
Yeah.
But like you said, I want to do it a certain way, and maybe I'm a perfectionist about it. Those guys are just going out and they're just doing it. And doing it is better than not doing it and saying I'm going to do it better when I do it. But yeah, no, that's definitely, you want to be out there. I've had people from TikToks I posted 2 years ago hit me up and go, yeah, I always follow you on TikTok. Why don't you post more? Now they got a case.
Yeah.
And they hit me up. You want to be top of mind. And so, no, I love doing all that. I think that's something that needs to be done. And nobody's doing it right. There's a couple guys I see what they're doing, but nobody's doing it right. It's something you got to sit back and kind of study it. But what it comes down to is low overhead, bank profits away, have money in the bank, to where if you don't get a case for 2 months or 3 months, look, we're in a solo business here, right? I can't be living month to month on my business or in my personal life, right? Like I have to have income like set out to where it's like if I don't get a case in 6 months, I'm still okay.
Yeah. We have 20 something employees. So like I would lose my mind.
You got to get in the green every month.
I'd lose my mind if I didn't have a case in 6 months.
So you're in the red for the first 3 weeks, and then the fourth week you're like, all right, we made money, right? That's that's kind of the pressure you're under a little bit.
Well, I mean, if that happened, yeah, but we're generating leads every day and like signing cases every day, so it's a little different. But I would lose my mind if we would have to lay off a ton of people if we didn't take on a case for 6 months.
So you've gotten big. But how long did it take for you to get that?
I'd say probably about
big?
We grew fast. We started hiring more than we should have. So we probably we were probably at 26 within like 8 years of practicing, and then we invested a bunch in technology to then lower that cost. So we lowered what we needed when it comes to employees, and so that was great. So then we dipped below 20, and now we're back. I think we're like we're 21 or 22. I think is where we are now.
But how long? Well, when you first started out, how long did you bootstrap it with just you and whoever you partnered with? Like, hey, we're doing everything.
Yeah,
we hire somebody.
I didn't partner with anybody. So I started like early on. It was just me for like the first 6 months, and then I was doing criminal defense and injury, which.
They're very it's a great thing because they feed into each other.
Yeah, and then at a point it became a burden because I couldn't move the injury cases. But then I had 2 employees.
First hire was what?
She was
assistant.
I can't remember what we called her. I think probably just legal assistant is probably what we called her. She was the daughter of a friend of mine who worked at the injury firm that I had left. And so, and then I hired his other daughter. So I had 2 employees. And then one of them, she went to, I can't remember, she went somewhere else because she just graduated from college because she was working there like part-time. And then I finally made my first official hire, which was like more like a case manager role.
Okay.
And then another case manager role. Then I partnered with a guy. We lasted for 18 months, which was, it was
learned a lesson from that?
That's right. So that was kind of interesting.
It ended bad because
it's funny.
He wasn't pulling his weight.
Well, no, it was interesting. It always comes down to money, right? So he and I both did well before. We both did extremely well together, and then we both done extremely well since. And it was just a matter of like, I think part of it's money, I think, but part of it's because it's funny when we split, we both got big checks from the firm. It was interesting. probably more of that came down to vision,
Okay.
where's the firm going to be headed kind of a thing. I think that was a big part of
So
it.
what, you wanted to grow it big? And he's like, I'm fine with it being small?
Not even necessarily that. I think we both, a lot of like case strategy on cases sometimes. I think that was part of it. Yeah, the type of people we should hire. Like a lot of times, like, and the way we did it is it was almost like veto power. Like, if you want to do this, great, if I agree with it as well. Or if you want to do that, I don't really want to do that. You can't do it.
You want to be the king of your own castle.
Right. And so
at a certain point.
I think both of us were kind of like, I was the managing partner. I think there were times where like he kind of also wanted to be too. It was an interesting dynamic. I mean, it was, and we parted on good ways too. It was an interesting thing because you normally see whenever a firm splits, everyone's fighting and everything. But we talked. 7 days later, we split. It was like we signed an agreement. Boom, done.
Right.
So it was an interesting thing how it all played out.
I've seen some guys. I know some guys, especially in the injury world. I go to these mass tort conferences. I meet some of the big injury guys.
It's interesting. Why do you go to those?
Why?
Yeah.
It's just like stepping into a different universe.
Because it's out here. So it's
no. Actually, I gone to other ones.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, when I was heavily recruited after I left the DA's office, all these personal injury firms want to hire me, right? And some of the really, really good ones.
Yeah.
Because what they say, a trial attorney, they're like, you can't make one. They go, it's just like a unicorn, man. I mean, you're already comfortable in a courtroom. You already know the judges. You know the rules of evidence. You could put trial on like it's nobody's business. If we just hand you the case and all the depositions and everything's done, like you could go in and do it. And they go, man, could you come in and do it? I did a few. And I said, but you're handing me the case and everything's not done.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I tried a case. It was a while ago, but like I got the case 30 days before, and it just was not ready. It was like, it was like to the point where the case wasn't getting continued, and just it sucks trying to shoot a case. It just it's just you're like, gosh, damn it, like all these things you would have done differently. It's so frustrating to do something like that.
But yeah, they recruited me, and then they're like, I did some work for them, and they're going and delving into that world too. So I tag along to the conferences, and they're great parties.
Yeah.
But you really kind of see like, how that world's operating and how some of these personal injury firms have kind of migrated towards that because, it seems to be a lot of money. There was definitely a huge wave. That wave is kind of settling down a little bit.
This kind of drives me nuts. It's that they will advertise that they're doing these. So there's a new mass tort, right? They're advertising that they're doing this, and they sign them and they sign a ship,
Yeah.
And it's like it's the thing that I look at. It's like you're not doing those cases though, and you're advertising that you are doing those cases, and that's the part. It's like
no, that's what Morgan is doing, right?
Exactly. Well, that's true. Yeah, and it is. There's something just not right about it. You know what I mean?
That's not your vision for your firm.
Yeah, and good for them for signing up. They get the money at the end and all that.
I mean, I heard Sweet James. I heard he moved to Puerto Rico so he could get the tax break. He's making billion. He's a billionaire attorney at this point.
Good.
Right?
I mean, good for him.
But is he really getting good outcomes? Is he trying cases? No, he's referral machine.
So I interviewed. I don't know his title. He might be a COO, but I mean, he's a sharp guy, and it was interesting. They've got it dialed in. They do have that firm dialed in, which is I think it's a cool name too. It's memorable. I think it's more memorable than like Morgan and Morgan. But what's great, and I don't know if Sweet James has this component. What makes Morgan and Morgan great is they do have the trial attorneys that can actually try the cases, and that makes them way different than the vast majority of volume firms, where most volume firms don't have that element of it.
That's right.
It definitely is a differentiator.
They want that element.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find good help.
Right. Have you ever thought about taking on a partner yourself?
Yeah, all the time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, it sounds great. In practice, it's like getting into a marriage, right? You better have your
exactly like getting into.
You better have your values aligned.
Yeah.
And this is a long-term thing. And here's the other thing: being completely solo, my overhead's low, right? I can be a workaholic sometimes, right? I have a hard time delegating, right? Because I feel like it's not going to get done right.
And you have no staff, right?
I have no staff.
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't get done right. That's why I don't hire staff. It usually doesn't get done right. And then I get bent out of shape. But here's the other thing is I like to be lazy sometimes too, right? And I don't need another partner looking at me like, how come you're not working so hard? And I also don't want to feel the same way towards them either.
Sure.
And I did think about partnering up with someone. We almost did it.
How close did you get?
We were at the bank to do
No
the
way.
joint bank account.
Okay.
Right? So it
Tell
was
me this story. You're walking to the bank.
Yeah, we're there and I guess her office manager had made the appointment at a bank that doesn't do lawyer trust accounts, right? Which I'm like, okay, that's
are you like, is that a sign? You know?
well, to me, I'm like, this is why I don't delegate anything.
Right.
I was like, how could you even make that mistake, right?
Yeah.
We're here for an appointment. I took time out of my day. Either way, it was a good thing. But, I just saw some red flags that came up, and it actually ended up really bad where I said, okay, look, we're not going to do this, but there's a couple like clients. I'm just trying to do purely criminal defense, personal injury kind of thing right now. I got some business clients. She was more of a business attorney doing contracts, business deals, whatever. And I had some business clients who were going to be recurring revenue, like basically paying a monthly fee, flat fee, not even retainer, like monthly flat fee for like a general counsel position.
Wow.
And she ended up not doing the work. They start contacting me, and then they're like, what's going on? I'm trying to contact her. Next thing you know, she's going radio silent. Client's wondering what's going on. Long story short, I think she stole about 20, 30 grand from people.
Oh my gosh.
And then I just went ahead and cleaned up the mess. I went ahead and just.
But you all had not partnered, right?
We had not completely partnered.
You had to clean up the
well,
mess.
I had introduced the client. So I'm like, I feel like, look, I want to do it. And then a couple of her clients that I didn't even know were hitting me up. They can't get in touch with her. So I got their cases squared away with somebody else. And I'm not saying all partners are like that, but at this point now that I've built what I've built, why do I want to split it up with somebody?
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I'll never partner with somebody again. I just never will. I'm the same way. I don't want that same obligation. The one of my as a practicing attorney, one of my favorite days was the day we split up because all that pressure of like, the same thing you talked about, like, what's he doing? Like, does he think that I'm not? Like, you're like, are they questioning what I'm doing? Am I questioning what he's doing? Kind of thing. Like, all that was gone. I'm like, okay, fresh start, kind of a thing. It was such a relief. So you're 100% right about that. How do you deal with situations like you're in court, clients calling you, they can't get a hold of you, so they leave you a voicemail? I mean, you don't have someone answering your phone, or do you have an answering service?
I don't really have anybody answering my phone.
Yeah. Any issues with that?
No, not at all. I mean, look, I tell my clients this. You call me, it goes to voicemail, I'm going to give you a call back, all right? Text me. Text messages go straight to my business line goes to my personal phone. I see it. Yep. Or email me. Same thing. I'm going to see it. And I promise you, I will text you back and let you know, like, when I get out of court, I'll give you a call. These are the things that separate me from these other guys, where it's like, you're selling peace of mind, comfort, right?
Do you ever take a vacation?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you still answer the phone on vacation and all that, or how do you deal with that?
I do. If I have service, I let my clients know if I'm going to be out of town. I said, look, I'm going to be out of town. If you shoot me an email, it's cool. If it's an emergency, text me or whatever, I'll give you a call. But yeah, I still get to my phone. I mean, I just don't see the sense in having a gatekeeper who goes, law office, yeah. All right, let me see if he's available, and then checking with me and then getting back with the person. It's like, I can text them back just as easy to go, I'll call you tomorrow.
Right.
Is it an emergency? I'll call you tomorrow. If it's an emergency, I'll call you this evening.
So what's your typical day like? Other than are you spending a lot of time in court now, or do you for example today's Saturday, so yesterday, Friday.
Well, Friday courts are pretty dead. So
what's Monday look like for you? It's Veterans Day, so are your courts open?
Yeah, Monday is Veterans Day, so the courts will be closed on Monday.
Okay, so what about Tuesday? All
right, Tuesday will be a busy day for me, right? So I have appearance downtown. We're going to appear in court. He's got an arrest warrant. We're going to get that recalled so he can get booked over at the jail. That's going to be at 8:30. At 9:30, I have a big media case. Triple death, DUI death. This has been the biggest DUI death in the county this year. It's getting sentenced. 9:30. The judge told me be there right away because they want to call it first. They have increased security for that case. I also, at the same time, I still prosecute cases in Boulder City. So we do a specialty court there.
Really?
The drug court conference. And Tuesday's like my heavy day there. I only go out there like 5 times a month. But I'm supposed to be doing a staffing on Zoom from 8 to 10. I've already told them I'm not going to be there for that. So after I get done with the sentencing, that should be done around 10:30. And then I'll probably just chill until I got to go to Boulder City at around 2:30.
Yeah.
And then I'll go handle, it'll be a bunch of pretrials. Maybe 8 or 10 cases where I'm prosecuting. Again, the defense attorneys aren't doing anything on the case. And I've been in the game long enough, like I know how to get the cases done with them. And so, I'll get done around 5, and then we'll do the specialty court, which goes from 5 to like 7. So it's a long day. And then go pick up my son after that. That's like a typical day. So the only thing that throws a wrench in my day is if a potential client calls me out of the blue.
Right. So what do you do in those situations? Because those can create tough situations sometimes.
I do it and I close them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but that's going to be a half hour out of my day.
Exactly.
Because I spend the time with them on the phone, right? And then I get a gauge on what they need. And then if they do want to sign with me, then I'll make sure I get over to my case thing. I've got my automated templates I've made for my retainer agreement, spit it out. They can either Zelle me or the retainer agreement, but that could throw a wrench. So if I get 3 consults in a day, my slow day just turned into, super
When you're ready to
busy.
get some work done, maybe look at some discovery, all that. That's, or they call, I need a bond hearing. It's bond hearings tomorrow, kind of a thing. That part can kind of throw a wrench in things
They
too.
can, but that's the nature of the business.
Yeah.
But man, if you're doing that, you're making money.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's why I was wondering, like, if sometimes your receptionist can help field those calls for you.
Yeah, but you know what? When these people are calling around, they're calling around, right? And so I know when I first left the DA's office, some criminal attorneys wanted me to work for them because they're like, they know I could just handle the whole case, even the client. Like I could handhold, like they wouldn't have to do anything.
Sure.
And they go, if I could just be in the office all day, because whoever gets them on the phone first,
Yeah, I can see that.
you're going to get them.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you, a lot of times I answer the phone. I go, hey, this is Attorney Thomas Moskal. And they go, is this the attorney? I go, yeah, it is. They're like, oh, I wasn't expecting to talk to the attorney. I was wanting to get a consultation. I go, can we schedule something? I said, well, you got me on the phone right now. What seems to be the situation? And they just go into it.
Yeah.
Then 20 minutes later, I'm kind of giving them the lay of the land. About around 20 or 30 minutes now, I've done enough of these calls where it's like, not to be a businessman about it, but this is what I charge and this is how it would proceed. Does that sound unreasonable to you?
Nice.
Hear the answer.
Yeah.
If they go, man, that is outside of my price range, how much were you looking to spend?
So you'll quote a price, but then sometimes you'll maybe like see what they're willing to pay.
Well, this is like something. It's like Alex Hormozy. You follow him a little bit.
Of course.
It's like he says. He goes, "You've had this conversation 1,000, 10,000 times. They've had it once.
Yeah.
You kind of. So that's what I charge. And then if they can't afford that, how much were you looking to spend, right? And then I'll hear it, and then I'll go, maybe I will take the case, especially if we had a good conversation. I got a good feeling they're not a problem client.
Yeah.
And I feel like I want to help them, like they're in a situation. But if it's something where I'm like, well, you know what? Let me refer you over to somebody. I got a guy. He doesn't charge. It's not going to be the Thomas Moskal defense. But look, your case is pretty simple. You're not going to jail on it, in my opinion. Call this guy. He's been doing it for 15 years. I'll refer him over business. He's a criminal attorney.
Yeah.
And he's a criminal attorney that actually refers bigger cases to me. And trust me, when he refers a case to me because he doesn't want to handle it because it's too big,
It's good money.
when they come to me, it's like this is a big case. And another criminal defense attorney has said, this is the guy you want to go
Referrals
to.
are the nicest, especially in a situation like that.
And then they look you up and they're like, Chief Prosecutor.
Yeah.
And then I call them and I go, hey, I'm not cheap.
What are some of the
Right.
things that you struggle with whenever it comes to like running the firm?
Oh, man. Just the normal. If I want to hire an assistant, I'm trying to get my checklist of what I would have somebody do. But ordering the discovery, getting it, I like to make it available to my clients. So creating the Dropbox share file, sharing it to them with the email, organizing the case file. I like it organized, like my filings by date. You know, there's little things that somebody should be able to do this for me, but I got to train them how to do it. Those kinds of things kind of like can take up a lot of time. You know, organizing as far as file retention, right? Get the stuff scanned in. All right, let's take it off of our server. Now we got it into, you know, was it Backblaze? And then also our
Backblaze.
That's like big time cloud file retention.
Okay.
Like you could trust it.
Okay.
Like Backblaze backs up and it's like you get so many terabytes. It costs. Most of these criminal attorneys don't want to pay for it, but you do have state bar ethical file retention guidelines, right? And then also I have a hard copy just in case something happens with Backblaze, even though it's the most trusted one, I think. I have the hard copy, back that up. I spent a lot of time doing that. And then bookkeeping, right? Not that I keep my own books, but I got to check what the bookkeeper's putting out, right? Taxes, subscriptions, LexisNexis. I mean, there's everything to it when you're solo,
but
right?
It sounds like you like everything's gone like extremely well for you, which is awesome. I mean, have there been any like dark moments?
I've been through every emotion.
Yeah,
I've been through every emotion.
Yeah, I want to hear about. I want to hear about I've heard about all the good stuff. I want to hear the other stuff. Like what's some of the stuff you're like, gosh, damn it! Like any times where you're like almost like thinking about hanging it up. You know what I mean? Like,
look, man. So I'm in year 3. I finally had the
sure
moment of like, I have enough data of every month is good. Every month keeps beating the prior month, right? It's like record-setting month, record-setting month, record-setting month. Everything's going to be fine. But man, when you first start, you don't know. You sign 2 clients, but what's the next one coming? The phone didn't ring this week.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Should I go get a job somewhere? Man, this is a lot. Running around, learning how to get from courtroom to courtroom. And at the same time, like I said, I got the 2-year-old. I had the son. He's small. Me and his mom had broken up. Yeah. So I was going through that. At the same time, trying to get
the same time you're starting a firm.
Oh, man.
That's tough.
It was like, I remember July 2022, I was sitting there like I just couldn't get it together. And I had all those emotions. Same thing, the partner just ripped somebody off, right?
So this all happened at the same time.
Oh, yeah, come on. It always happens. When things go bad, they go bad.
Yeah.
Right? But you come out of that and you're stronger. But yeah, the main thing is like, are you going to be able to make money? I mean, that's what everybody's thinking. Can you make money? Especially when you got job offers coming at you. And they're like, I'm an experienced attorney. I'm 10, 12 years in the game. When I get offered, like, this is a good salary for most people, right?
Did any of them get you to the point where you were like seriously considering taking the job? Yeah.
Yeah. Earlier, now that I've had the moment, you're never, look, this is the one thing. My mom, she ran a bar when I was growing up, okay?
That's an interesting childhood.
Yeah. But she ran her own bar, and she was kind of like I'll call her the queen, but she's like the king of her own universe, right? Yeah. She had her own little microcosm out there. She ran stuff, man. Nobody's telling her what to do. And I always had that feeling, but I also knew this. In law, just because watching my mom and watching business owners come up in law, the only way you're going to make real money is by being the business owner.
Yeah.
There's a reason why lawyers make a lot of money as employees, because the business is making a ton of money to pay a lawyer. $200,000 a year, $300,000 a year. How much is the firm making off of you to pay you that much?
Sure.
Right? But if you're making that much money, and I know if I paid somebody $300,000 a year, you better be busting your ass. You better be, right? Yeah. But as an owner, you can make $300,000 a year and not work too hard. Like you could.
Potentially, yeah.
I stand right here. I'll say it. I was working a lot harder when I was a prosecutor than I am now.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of surprising. I think that the vast majority of the criminal defense attorneys that would hear that would think that's kind of surprising. I mean, that's good for you. That's excellent.
I don't know. I mean, I know some attorney. I talked to them at coffee, but there's guys who have it figured out. They do have it figured out. Now that's that's a minority of them because everybody's trying to get a piece. But the guys who've really made a living doing it. I had a dermatologist. He asked me what kind of law I'm in. I go, I'm doing criminal defense. And he goes, I have a lot of friends that are lawyers. He goes, the happiest ones are the criminal defense guys. And why? It's not paperwork intensive, right? You got to have a personality to be able to pull it off well. You got to pull the clients in. But 99% of cases, just like in PI, 99% of cases are resolving. You're not going to trial on those. The guys who are having a tough time are the guys who are, and they make a business of it and they like what they're doing. But if you're doing appointed work, contract work for the government,
terrible.
You're doing a lot of indigent cases, which the system needs.
And not getting paid until the end of the case.
Well, or they're paying you $5,000 a month and you're taking a ton of cases. And then if you go to trial,
Missouri's not paying that much. That's
really?
Yeah.
They're paying like $5,000 a month to a contract attorney. And you're taking everything that the public defender's conflicting off of. And then the federal ones pay better. If you know the federal panel.
The federal, CJA panels. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, have you thought about doing federal? Because those are all high dollar cases. Like you're not going to do anything that's under like $20,000. You know, like it's all going to be $20,000.
Oh, from CJA.
Yeah. Or no, I'm just talking about federal, like private. Counsel,
federal case, man, you shouldn't charge less than 6 figures.
Yeah, you're getting.
Now you're not getting much retained work out there. Okay, there's not. Yeah. But if a retained case comes through, you should be getting over 6 figures on it if you get retained on it.
They're all big dollar cases, right? Every single one of them. Yeah.
Well, also the guys are facing a ton of time.
Absolutely.
And you know it is what it is. But the CJA is cool. I do want to get into it just to learn learn more about the federal system. I do some work with legal aid, like some 1983 cases, so I can learn how to do those things. But as far as doing appointed work, I mean, look, even if they're paying you $150 an hour, $170 an hour, $200 an hour, whatever it is, and they're not paying that much, it's still not a great hourly rate. They're still slashing your bills just like an insurance company was slashing insurance defense bills. You better not bill too much. Like you got 1,000 pages of discovery, charge about this much for it. It doesn't matter. But if you actually looked at it, God forbid you sit there like I do on a case and start researching a bunch of case law to make some kind of bespoke motion, right? Yeah. They're like, you spent how long on that motion? 10 hours? No, you're not taking any more CJA cases if you do that, right?
Yeah, do you ever feel like you're spreading yourself too thin?
No, because I don't spend a lot of time on the work. Like I was a litigation monster, right? So I say this, prosecutors I go against, if I spend a weekend putting together 3 motions, a weekend, right, which I would have to be working morning till night to put together 3 motions.
Yeah.
You're going to have to spend 2 weeks on it. Like I'm that efficient with what I do. I practice that much litigating.
Do you do anything other than like run the business and practice law? I mean, because like do you have any hobbies that you do outside of work?
Yeah.
Like, what do you like to do outside
Well, number
of work?
one, I'm a dad. My son's 5.5 now.
Yeah. So other than being a father, what are the other things?
I mean, that's the huge thing. It's like reliving my own childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the Nerf war is set up all the Nerf guns got loaded up today. His mom picked them up. I said, Nerf war tomorrow morning, pick them up. Nice. All the Nerf guns are loaded up. We're going to do it up. I take him to his extracurricular activities. But yeah, when I have a night away from him, that's when I am trying to get my work done, right? I'm trying to work on my automation. My document automation is the big one for me, right? And then I'm trying to do the work on my cases and do that. But man, I get to the gym every day around 10 in the morning, 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, working out's important.
It is. Yeah. And people are like, man, you're living the life. I go, I'm in the gym with the retired people.
No, you're putting in the work.
Right?
Got to put in the reps.
But it's like that time is available to me. I practice the guitar. Call of Duty 6 just came out. Black Ops 6 just came out on PlayStation 5.
It just came out?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
October, end of October they released it. So I'm not as into it as I was a couple years ago. I think that was more procrastination with the dark times of the firm. But it's, as long as you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? And then the firm eventually, I got the website going, and now I'm really at the point with the firm now. It's kind of an exciting time where all I got to do is turn the stove up, turn the marketing up, like you said. If I run some, and I'm really thinking about it, but I had to set up my solo 401k. I did a ton of research on that over the summer. I had to get that set up. I'm at the very final stages of that.
Nice.
And so that was like one big to-do off the list. And then it's like, man, my old SEO company, I know they know what they're doing because they worked with some PI firms that I was friends with, and they got my stuff off. And so it's like, as soon as I call them up, like, hey, let's go ahead and do it. Let's run about $3,000 a month budget on the Google ads. Yeah. Because that's about the minimum we can do until I get inundated. Let's start getting my SEO up a little bit more. I do want to get into the social media, back into TikToks and IG, like really doing it the way I do it, just organic. I used to do it in my car, start getting that out. And so as far as the hobbies, I work out just to keep the machine going. I'm there for my son, but I don't really go out anymore or anything like that. It's more about the business. I mean, what about you? You probably focus on the business mostly.
So
right?
I do jiu-jitsu.
You're in Vegas doing
you
do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So it's because I've got the two businesses. I've got Maximum Lawyer and then I've got the firm. So the firm's the main focus, and then we got Maximum Lawyer is a big part of it too. And we were out here for a mastermind, but I work out. I do jiu-jitsu. I like to fly. I'm a pilot, so I like to fly. So I think having those hobbies is really important.
How old are you? Can I ask?
41.
You're 41.
Just a little bit younger than you.
Okay. Yeah, so my son's in Muay Thai over at this place called Syndicate.
Nice. Yes.
MMA. Sean Strickland trained
I
out
would
of
love
there.
to do Muay Thai. Yeah.
And but they have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the other side. They got the cage, and the people are training. They got some amateur fighters that are about to turn pro.
Yeah.
A couple pro fighters fighting out of there. And I'm always looking at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's just at this point, it's like, and you'll see, I mean, you're 41, so you're seeing it a little bit, but you'll see when you get injured, It just doesn't heal up,
yeah,
man.
when I shook your hand, my shoulder popped. I had that shoulder surgery a couple weeks ago, so I was like, oh gosh. That was from a car crash. So
Okay.
yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's tough, but it's one of those things like because we do work out and because we're healthy, like my recovery is not gonna be that long. I mean, I'm gonna have pretty good recovery, and so I'll be able to get back into it and stuff too.
In a few
but-
years, you'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just doing some push-ups the other day, and my wrist was like, just from doing push-ups,
Right.
something happened in there, right? And I'm going to tell you what, I've been dealing with this. I don't even know how this thumb got. I don't know if I hit it against something, but it's like when I'm lifting weights, sometimes it just taps the bar a little bit.
Right.
5 months. It's
Oh my
still.
gosh.
It's still.
You need to go get that checked out by a doctor.
Yeah. What are they going to do?
I don't know.
When you break a finger, they can't even do
They
anything.
have to go in
but
there and take out a little
it's just
scar tissue
the
or something.
healing time is insane. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit reluctant to get on the mat, but I've heard great things. You don't have the cauliflower ear or anything.
No, it's funny. This ear swelled up and I had to drain it with a needle. So like that. So that's because if you drain it, you're fine. But it did break the cartilage in my left ear. That's what causes when the cartilage breaks. But there's something about it. It's like it's kind of like trying a case in a way where like sometimes you'll take your lumps and it's not necessarily that you lose, but sometimes you'll take your lumps in a trial. You know, like
Right.
you're like the other side gets some good shots in, and like whenever you are like you're rolling with sometimes people get you in a really compromised position, and it sucks. You know, it really sucks. But you know what? You also get other people. So like. You're humbled sometimes, which you need that a little bit. It grounds you, but then also there's the confidence part where you're rolling somebody else and you're getting that position and you're making them tap, and so there's a lot of that and there's a lot of the camaraderie when it comes to rolling with people, and you're rolling with the same people over and over and over again, and learn these different techniques and learn these little bitty things. And it's kind of like you're talking about like the Hormozy thing about like it's their one call they've done, you've done it 1,000 times. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. Like I'm a white belt. I'm at 3 stripes, and so if I roll with a brand new person, I know so much more, and I don't know anything. Here's the thing,
Right.
But I know so much more just because I've gone just a little bit longer. That's what's really cool. You start to see those little bitty things.
It's very intellectual.
Yes, it very is because you're not making one move at a time. You're making like 12 moves at a time. So it's like 12 move chess. Like there's so many different things you do in every given moment. But both sides are trying to figure it out at the exact same time. And so there is a lot of thinking involved, but it's also, I mean, it's very physical too. And I think the humbling part of it is probably the most important part of it, though, just to really ground you, because I think we do need that sometimes.
Yeah, I want to try it. I want to get into it. I know I would really enjoy it. I'm a little reluctant because of the injury side of it.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped playing basketball, those things. Like, being injured sucks at this point. But you got to find the right gym where it's like you're not dealing with some young guys with egos, or
people that don't know what they're doing. That's where you
Right.
get injured. If you roll with the guys that are like higher belts or that know then you won't get injured. You'll never get injured because they know how to protect you.
Right.
But it's the ones where you are. If you're rolling with a newbie, that's where you'll get hurt.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But so I want to end on this though. I want to know because it seems like you're really driven, and I wonder like what drives you and what's your end game? Like where do you want to take this thing?
I'm just taking it as it comes, man. When I went to law school, I didn't know I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't.
Interesting.
You
Okay.
know, I got out of there and I went back to my hometown, and my best friend, he's just a hustler, man. And I said, I don't know if I want to be a lawyer. He says, so you spent all this money in law school? I went, yeah. And he goes, and you worked really hard for 3 years, got your law degree. I said, yeah. And he goes, but you don't know if you want to be a lawyer. I said, yeah, I don't know. And he goes, but you haven't tried it yet? I went, I kind of see where you're going with this. He goes, man, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. So I gave it a try. I like it. I knew I wanted to come into private practice. I'm only 3 years in. I mean, at some point, life could take me a different direction. So I don't really have a long-term plan. I just know as long as I'm not dreading this, that's my thing. Like the prosecutor's office, I started dreading going in. Once I started dreading going into a job, I can't stay there. I'm not the Oscar Wilde life of lonely desperation, whatever. No, that's not me. So,
well, you don't want a job, right? As a law firm owner, you don't want a job, and so you don't have a job right now. And that's good. I think that's good.
yeah, no. So it's cool. It affords me a lot of freedom. But I do feel like I'm a little bit wasted. I would like to go work on like some complex litigation.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I would.
I think you
know?
need something that's going to really motivate you and push you. I feel like you are. I feel like you're coasting right now, and I feel like you need to be pushed.
It is. No, I am coasting, but at the same time, I got my priority, which is I want to be as present as I can for my son.
Sure.
Now he's 5.5. I think once he gets to 7, he's almost there. At 7, it's pretty much like my job's done.
Yeah.
And not in a comical way, but really like as far as psychologists say, if you get everything right to 7 years old, where they feel confident, secure, everything's good. Parenting gets real easy. They start developing their own way.
Self-sufficiency is great.
Yeah. And so I'm just now feeling in this last year like I'm able to start grinding more. I mean, man, this summer is about as busy as a person could be. I was busy,
Good.
and I was getting these business processes set up. And so it just takes time. I just say, I got a big saying, peace equals pace. Go slow, homie. Go slow, right? Like you're not in a race with anybody else, and bills are paid, finances are good. Things look on the up and up. But if I look long term, if I stay doing this, I am looking to figure out how I can scale criminal, right? How can I scale it? Because as soon as I turn the marketing up, I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. I'm not. And so, but financial independence, right? I'm 45. I'm looking at by the time I'm 55, can I be in a position where I'm working because I kind of want to? I'm not feeling that pressure of like that hunched over guy in his 50s. Where are my leads coming from? Oh my God. They had a guy, John Mamet. He was in Casino, the movie. Okay. Robert De Niro's attorneys were Oscar Goodman, and John Mamet was right next to him. They were legends, right? John Mamet just died about a year ago. But that guy, he married like 5 different showgirls over his life. He'd been married and divorced, right? He lived it up. But at the end of his career, he's coming up to court every day, and he's carrying his oxygen tank with the tubes going into his nose, still making appearances based on who he was. And every prosecutor he'd see, I was a young prosecutor, he goes, don't leave the DA's office. Get your pension. Get your pension. That was his advice, right?
Wow.
And I said, but you know what? That guy, he really lived it up in his heyday, but he did not set himself up to be in a position of – Bill Terry was the same way. He worked until he died, right? And it's like you got to make sure that your need for money is not there anymore. And law is a beautiful way to do it. Is it like the passion, the sexiest job in the world? I don't know. But I'm hoping 10 years from now I'm in a position where maybe the business is kind of running itself. I can kind of recede back and kind of be the face, kind of make some rain. Maybe I'm not doing criminal defense anymore. I'm really looking at some of these federal statutes that have attorney fee provisions shifting, where you're suing the federal government for certain things, whether it's environmental, whatever. I know a couple guys that do that, and they make, $500,000-$600,000 a year, and there's only about 5 or 6 guys in the country who do it, and nobody knows. And you just got to find one statute. Yeah. You become an expert in that. Consumer protection here, they got attorney's fee shifting provision. You could sue a used car dealership. The more they fight it, next thing you know, they're on the hook for $75,000 in attorney's fees over a $1,500 dispute because they're fighting it. So looking into all kinds of things like that. I think criminal defense can be a huge grind. Yeah. A lot of guys can wear on them. So
yeah. Well, what I hope is that 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you go back and listen to this, and you kind of you think like, okay, and like at that point you've kind of gotten to where you know where you want to be with this. And I think that'd be kind of a cool thing for you to come back and listen to a little bit.
No, it would be.
Yeah. So hopefully that you'll do that.
Yeah, I journal a lot, and just going back to a journal from 3 years ago, you're like, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Yeah. So
well, Thomas, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. So I know you're got an event to go to. So, but really appreciate you taking the time. I know we went pretty long here, but I think it was fun.
No, man. I know you had a long day, man. So
yeah, thanks, man.